Next edition of our live show, but this time we're in Seattle, the NEWH Leadership Conference. Stick around.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. Of course, I'm Glenn Hausman. I am in Seattle today, and a lot of you are probably tuning in and saying, Glenn, aren't you supposed to be getting ready for your drinking show? Aren't we going to be watching Friday Night Audit? Well, we moved that to 8 p.m. East Coast time, 5 p.m. Pacific time, so that way I could do these interviews. I got a panel I have to host, and I don't want to be too drunk for those kind of things. That's just not good favor, but I'm having a great time here at NEWH's Leadership Forum, and I got with us some great guests today, so let's start off right away, bringing in keynote speaker from today, Mr. Chase Jarvis, CEO of Creative Live. Chase, how are you, man?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It was a fun surprise. I love it.
Yeah, this is great because, here at No Vacancy, we're really known for not planning. So this really fit in absolutely perfect to our strategy of doing things.
Great.
Yep.
It's been quite an action-packed morning. I was
Yep.
up at 5 this morning.
Woo. Yeah.
Opening keynote is a tough slot.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll tell you, I do a lot of these kinds of speeches as well, Chase. One of the things that I try to do is I have a rule. I'm not allowed to have any fun the night before I do all of this kind of stuff. And I've really tried hard to stick by it.
Well, I tell you, when I took the stage this morning, I think at 8,
right,
8 and change,
yeah,
I could tell the front row, they were like,
yeah,
you'd had a great time last night. I could tell you got a drinking show. I know that show well.
Thanks.
On that. It was a fun start, but it's been an incredible day. So much inspiration, vitality, energy. It's so great to be in person. Yep. I'm very, very happy.
So one of the things here at NEWH, the Leadership Conference, is everyone is really focused on design. And you guys know us from going to all conferences on financial and technology and all the different sectors. But here it's design and scholarships and taking care of people. And the centerpiece of that, to me, is creativity, Chase. And one of the things that I'm concerned about, particularly over the last couple of years or so, we're starting to lose a connection to creativity. When we get beaten down so much, I think it's really hard to tap into that part of us. Plus, we're all creative as kids, and then society seems to tell us to conform and not be creative. Would that be a fair statement?
I think it's a fair statement.
Yeah.
And look, my wife was a public school teacher for a long time.
Right.
And the education system does its best, but the reality is, historically speaking, it has not been built on a foundation around creativity. It was built on a model from the factory. You put all the kids in at one age, they go through the system, and they learn the same things at the same age, and we expect them to come out and be dynamic, free-thinking, creative people. And the reality is, that's if you walk into any first grade classroom and you say, who wants to come up in a room and draw me a picture?
Yeah.
How many hands go up? Every single hand goes up. And then if you do that again in 4th grade and 8th grade and 10th grade, and by the time they're seniors in high school, we have, to your point, largely trained that out of them. And that's not because there's any ill will, there's no puppet master,
right?
But just the system, in order to get that many kids through, it has to be a little bit more like a
right.
So I'm very excited about what my company Creative Live does, and what I believe the future of learning is highly customized, highly creative. Because let's face it, the jobs that our kids are going to get, and our kids'
right?
If they're going to be, they largely either don't even exist today, or they're going to be so new and emerging.
Right.
And we have to have a different kind of education system. And if our parents have one job, you and I will have 5.
Right. Oh yeah.
The next generation will have 5 at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Education system that's built for that.
And we will not have that, and we will not change because it's really impossible to turn, I think, our ship around. But you started as a creative person. You are a photographer, right? And you've been most places around the world and stuff like that. So first of all, it's pretty cool that you can make a living off of being creative. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that as well. But for all folks, they can incorporate that creative elements into their lives. How do you start to recapture all of that stuff that was taken out of us through the school system and being told to conform both in school and when you get into the workplace?
That's a great question. And that was a big piece of
Yeah.
the keynote talk that I gave this morning. I want people who are listening and watching right now to believe 3 fundamental things.
Right.
One, that everyone is creative.
Sorry, when you said that, I can't help. Every time I hear 3 fundamental things, I think of Hamilton. Sorry.
No, that's good. It's an amazing show.
Yeah.
So 3 things, right? One, everyone is creative.
Right.
Again, go back to that first grade classroom. You walk in there. every hand will go up against them in the picture. So
right.
Undeniably, we're all creative. Just remember, you are creative. Despite your role, whatever you think, you are creative. And if you can just suspend any judgment for just a second. Number two is creativity is a muscle. The more you use, the more you get. Right? Great minds look great about creativity. Creativity is
right.
The more you use, the more you get. It's an infinite resource. And the same is true. You can't go to the gym once and think you're going to be strong, or twice, or three times, or five times. But the reality is, if you practice creativity, and by creativity I mean making a meal, driving home a different way, building a business, building anything, reading, writing, journaling, all of these things are small, lightweight, creative things that you can do every day. So if everyone's creative, creativity is a muscle. Here's the
that's a good point.
Is that it's only through creating on a regular basis in small, daily, incremental ways that you can build up the muscles to live the life of your dreams. There's no other way to do it. And so if you look at someone who is living their dream, the people that you look up on the internet, or business icons, or creative geniuses, the reality is that is not a birthright, that aren't something that happened to them. That is the product of hard work, small creativity in lots of ways on a regular basis over time. The same muscles that you cook a meal for your family, that you build your small business, those same muscles are the muscles that allow you to live and create the life of your dreams. It's just creativity at a different scale. So that to me is part of what we don't understand as a creative community, or as a global community. That this is a muscle, and look at everyone in the world is creative. John Cleese said it best. It's a way of operating in the world. It's not some skill. It is a habit. It is a way of being, a way of thinking. So for those out there who don't think they're creative, I challenge you, and I bet you that you've taken a photograph in the last 24, 48 hours. I bet you have cooked a meal for your family in the last 24, 48 hours. Those are creative acts. If you can call yourself a creator, you're 50%.
That's really strange.
It's the simplicity of it is what freaks most people out. And this idea that we have been talked out of our creativity, that we're somehow just corks bobbing in the tide. The reality is that dream lives and dream outcomes and dream experiences, they don't just happen, right? Life isn't about finding success. Life is about creating it. And the people that you look up to, respect, and admire, let's talk about the hotel industry, for example, the best hoteliers, whether you're Alex Calderwood of the Ace Hotel, or, Sir Richard Branson with Virgin, or whatever. That is a very active process, and they're not waiting to stumble into something. They're actively trying to create the vision that they see in the world.
All right, so exercising that muscle. I did have a chance before I had to go do a show myself this morning. You talked about going to the gym, right?
Yes.
And you're not going to get results right away. So you're trying to draw a parallel to that with creativity. So what are some of the things that we could do to start exercising those muscles in a way that won't make us want to give up right away and will encourage us to continue?
Beautiful question. So first of all, creativity, I want to define it really quickly. It's not popsicle sticks and glue guns and glitter that you were told when you were in second grade. Like that is a form of creativity, and art is a form of creativity, but that is a very small subset of creativity. Creativity is actually the definition is putting two or more things together in new and useful ways. So the idea that, just if you think about creativity with the capital C, then you can start to understand that, the combination of the light bulb plus creativity, electrical engineering plus creativity created the light bulb, and mechanical engineering plus creativity created the wheel. This bigger expanded definition of creativity helps you understand that we are all creative. As an example, you and I are co-creating this conversation right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you interrupted me and you started telling a story about your old Aunt Maud, we would start talking about your old Aunt Maud.
By the way, she's pretty awesome.
There you go. So, the idea that you can affect your outcome, that you're not just a cork in the tide, and that again, that we're pursuing the creative act of defining who we are, what we care about. To me, that is something that is wildly and understood in our culture. And just by simply changing the way we think about that, by making a meal for your family and changing an ingredient, by doing something slightly differently, such that you're aware that you are in a creative process, that awareness alone is the first step. And if you can repeat that over time, small habits on a regular basis
Right.
can create great transformation.
I like that. Small habits on a regular basis. For me, when I'm trying to improve in my life, and hopefully we're all trying to do that in
For sure.
constant
The
basis.
show, for example,
Right.
the first show as good as the 100th show?
I would hope not.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah.
you get better over time. It's that same muscle going to the
For
gym.
me as a creative, I'm always happy in the moment, and then I go back to listen to anything, and I'm disgusted by everything I've ever done in my entire career. But what I wanted to say was, when it comes to being creative or other things in life, it's like you can't do it all at once, right? To me, the way I found success is you add one thing at a time, figure it out, incorporate it into your daily routine, and then you're free up enough to add another thing. I think a lot of times people take on too much, and then that leads to discouragement and quitting.
For sure. That is the classic, right? And especially overachievers. And whether you identify as a creator or not, there's a lot of type A's we're listening and watching right now that either have been taught or told that they weren't creative. And yet, if they suspend that belief, even just for a moment, lean into these concepts that I'm talking about, and if you can recognize that it's through these, calling yourself a creator is a very simple but empowering thing. If you recognize that you did create a meal for your family, you did drive home a different way, you did build a business, all those things are wildly creative acts. And if you can recognize that, look at doing more of that over time, will that be neutral, better, or worse?
Right.
For the ability to create the living and the life you want. It's very hard to argue that it's going to be neutral or worse.
Yeah.
Right? So even by default, if we understand and realize and recognize some of these simple tactics, that we can dramatically improve in a reasonably short amount of time. Despite my gym analogy, you don't go to the gym 3 times and call yourself strong.
No, you don't. You have to do it on a regular basis in order to make differences and changes. So how did you?
Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah,
You do not have to get a entirely different set of friends. You do not have to move to Paris and smoke the cigarette and wear the beret. That is not what creativity is.
Right.
That is what we were told as children. And that is, you've heard the idea of the starving artist. Those are toxic myths that don't help us. The reality is that you are creative. You're imbued with unlimited potential.
Yep.
And the more you activate these muscles, the more you remind yourself that the most important words in the world are the ones that you say to yourself. And you start to program yourself with good things and put yourself around good people. Think you are in charge of your life. You have agency, and the fact that you can change things in your life is a foundational admittance that you are creative. You can create the living and the life that you want for yourself. In fact, that nobody ever got to that place without doing it.
Yeah, that is an extremely awesome point. So as a creative person, you started off as a photographer. Now you're an author, you're a keynote speaker. How did you start to make those transitions in your life to live a newly creative existence?
Great question. And it's one of my favorite to answer, because in going very, very deep on my passion in photography, I uncovered something. You started to see, I got close to what one would call mastery. I was at the very top of my industry, one of the top commercial photographers in the world, with campaigns from Nike, Apple, Red Bull, Adidas, Microsoft, Google, what you name it. And when you go deep on anything, I don't care if it's plumbing, if it's photography like me, if it's astrophysics or building businesses, when you know a subject 360 degrees around, and you might not know everything in that thing, but you have a spatial map of what it means to be great at that thing, something strange and beautiful happens. You start to understand and have the ability to lift and stamp many of those same qualities onto other disciplines. So I mastered photography. I could take any picture. Given the time and the budget, I could take any photograph. All I did was then deconstruct what the successful aspects and elements of photography were. And then I was able to, through basically a system of shortcuts and understanding what greatness looked like in one discipline, start to pursue that in others. So my first book was a best-selling book. I started a company that was venture-backed, and we recently, had a very successful exit, sold it to a publicly traded company. This is a pattern. There's a series of pattern recognitions and a creative process that now I follow in everything I do. 4 quick steps. 1, imagine what you want. 2, design a plan to get there. 3, execute that plan. And 4, amplify what it is you're doing. And by amplify, I mean Share your big, scary, hairy vision with the world.
I love it.
You can apply this 4-step process to baking a cake, building a business, or shaping your life.
That's really super fascinating stuff. But how do you get past the negative stuff in your life? It's hard doing stuff every single day, you know.
I wish this was the drinking show.
Yeah, we'll come back at 5 o'clock.
No, speaking of being hard, it is hard, right? But that's part of one of the reasons I want everyone who's listening and watching to understand that you're creative. And I'm giving you a creative framework. I go really deep in my book, best-selling book called Creative Calling, which I encourage you to check out. But look at the haters and the negative that is never going to go away in any aspect of life. But if you are the average of the people you spend the most time with, the 5 people, you should choose wisely. Put yourself around people who lift you up. And certainly there's some stinkers in all our lives. And it's our job to filter those people. And it's our job to write down our goals and find a path to create the living and the life that we want. If it's not you, then who? And if it's not now, then when?
I love it. All right. We're out of time because you have to go do a session. So I got to get you out of here. How can we learn more about you? How can we get that book? All that kind of good stuff.
Sure. I'm at Chase Jarvis on every platform. ChaseJarvis. I put out YouTube videos weekly. I'm always on Instagram. I spend a lot of time and energy there. We also the book that I mentioned is called Creative Calling. It's available for any of your local bookstores. It's a national bestseller. You can get it on Amazon and get it delivered in 24 hours. And I would encourage you, if you have any desire to pursue anything creative, photography, design, filmmaking, entrepreneurship, building a business, and a living in a life, then check out Creative Live, a company that's now 10 or 12 years old, and you can learn from the best people like Mark Cuban and Damon John from Shark Tank, or Sir Richard Branson, Brene Brown. These are the people that we have teaching classes on the platform. One low price subscription will get you access to 2,000 classes.
Wow. Well, let me know if you need a moderately okay podcaster class. I'd be happy to help you with that. Chase Jarvis, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, man.
I enjoyed it. Congrats on all the success in the show.
Thanks,
and I'm tuning into the drinking show here in a couple
Friday
minutes.
night on at 5 p.m. tonight, West Coast time. Special time, 8 p.m. East Coast time. Thanks, Chase.
Thank you very much. Have a great one. Appreciate you.
All right, so we're going to bring in our next guest right now, Mr. Bashar Wali. So we're going to get one out. We're going to get one in. Thanks again. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I hope you guys are enjoying watching this special production from the NEWH Leadership Conference. And now we got another guy who's one of my favorite industry people. He's going to be a big speaker here tomorrow morning. Of course, we're talking about Bashar Wali. Bashar, how are you, sir?
Howdy, how are you?
How
Good
you
to be
doing?
with you again. Great, life's good. Can't complain.
Yeah, so what's it been like now? You've been on your own for a while now. You're forging your own destiny and all of that. Why don't you give everybody a little update about what's going on over here?
I mean, look, nothing better than starting a company in the middle of the pandemic. Why not, right?
Well, listen, man.
If somebody's got to do
Why
it.
not? Because you got a clean slate,
Exactly.
right?
The rise
There
of the
are no
phoenix.
rules anymore,
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. So look, this is the industry that I love, that I've dedicated my life to, and I think I believe in it strongly, and I felt that there was no better time than the time that we're resetting everything we know and everything we've learned. So started off with a small management company, and we're growing amazingly, and we have 8 hotels now, so excited about that. Now waiting for that real estate carnage that never happened, thanks to our government contributing help. Hoping we start seeing some opportunities on the real estate front so we can have some fun there too.
So, the company you came out of, your last position was very focused on boutique properties. Is that the kind of same thing that you're doing right now? And I'm going to guess yes.
I mean, the word boutique, Glenn, as you know, has become so ubiquitous. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
How about I'll see your boutique and raise you lifestyle hotel.
Lifestyle. Now I like how you roll. So lifestyle obviously could be anything. And I think brands would be offended if you told them their hotels are not.
I tell them that all the time.
I know, me too. But nonetheless, I think they have art galleries, great local flavors. So I think the word has become ubiquitous. So I'd say lifestyle, as long as there's more than a commodity. What we do is non-commodity. And I sort of tell people there's 2 kinds of hotels. Memorable and forgettable. I don't want to work with forgettable hotels. So
you're so right.
That's the new word.
Forgettable, great for a flight.
Exactly.
Not so good for a hotel experience.
Exactly.
So how do you get out of that sameness that we see all of the time that creates those forgettable experiences? And I'll raise you again on this, Bashar. Even if I have a pretty good experience, I travel so frequently, it's really hard for all those properties to stay in here on an immediate recall basis.
And you're exactly right. And at the end of the day, my neurotic behavior where I
Yep.
jump hotels every night.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't remember much. To your point, it kind of all blends together. Yeah. And really, the only thing I remember ever is when people go out of their way and do something special.
Right.
So I think fundamentally the burden is on us is to teach our people to create memorable moments for guests, mm-hmm. which makes the hotel memorable. Because ultimately, the tile isn't going to make it memorable, and the art isn't going to make it memorable, right?
You're so funny, dude, because I do a lot of these keynote speeches, and when I'm on stage, I'm like, nothing against the lamp manufacturers, you're great, but nobody's ever said, I've got to stay in this hotel because you won't believe that lamp. It's always, so-and-so did something for me, and it made a difference to my experience in life.
100%. Honestly, all of the things and people in our lives, it's always people that we remember that make something memorable. You can go to the most beautiful museum in the world by yourself and you'll forget about it. You go with someone you love and the experience you have with them will make that place memorable, not the place itself.
That's a really good point there as well. Now, the other issue that I'm seeing, Bashar, I've talked about this before on our other No Vacancy live shows, is that all of these designers keep saying they're doing things differently, and they're all doing things differently. It's just that different happens to all be exactly the same.
Honestly, look, the problem is we have such amazing creative people in our industry. A lot of them are here now.
Yeah.
And I think we all want to follow trends, which by definition means we're copying each other. We've got to be individuals and things for ourselves. And that means being, out of the box and out of the norm. But that's how creativity works. You can't be like everybody else. So I encourage everyone that's thinking about this to really be themselves. Don't try to conform. Conformity is death.
So let me be that negative Nelly, Bashar.
Do it.
All right. So, yeah, but if I go in that direction, whoever's financing the project or my client and stuff like that might not like it, and I just can't risk that.
Well, fair enough. And you do work that pays the bills, and mm-hmm. sometimes you have to nod and say yes.
Right.
But ultimately, I think a smart person who has the talent will stand up for themselves and make their point heard. Now, at the end of the day, of course, if the developer doesn't want to do it, you don't have to say.
Right.
But we're not giving developers enough credit also. That if we show them something interesting, yeah, sure, not everyone will listen. But the problem is we're afraid to say it, and therefore we end up getting the same thing again and again. So you've got to at least be a voice, not an echo.
Right. So how do you then, as an individual, find your voice and make sure it's heard loud and clear in our business?
I think you have to have conviction and passion about what you do. It can't be just a push. Truly, you got to be passionate. I mean, listen, there's not a single meeting I walk into that people don't say that guy is really passionate about what he does.
Right.
They may like it, they may not like it, but I think ultimately, if you're passionate about what you do, those who like it will really like you for it and will mm-hmm. choose you for it. Because if you do something you're not passionate about, it's never going to be good. It's never going to be good enough. You've got to be passionate about what you do. If you're just checking boxes, life's too short. Move on.
What's the point? And now I'm in that 50 plus kind of thing. All of those things are so much more in focus. It's if it's not now, when?
Exactly.
Right. And I think younger people in particular have an opportunity now to recreate all the rules. Everything has been broken for the last year and a half or so. That now's the appropriate opportunity to try new things, fail quickly, and move on to something else. No one's going to remember at the end of the day those failures that you've had. Only the great success that you'll eventually hit on.
Could not agree with you more. And we throw around the word authenticity so much and it means nothing anymore.
Right.
I define authenticity as an unapologetic point of view. If you don't have a point of view,
great,
then you're nothing, right? You're just a robot. You have to have a point of view and be unapologetic about it. Because the minute you start adjusting it to fit in some norm, again, you've become a commodity.
So how does that fit into the storytelling aspect that everybody claims to be focused on?
Again, such an overused term. A storytelling, by definition, has to be authentic. I think the notion of storytelling for us humans is such an innate thing built into us because that's how we delivered history for millennia. Mm-hmm. Stories being told generation to generation. And I think people want to be told and engaged in a story that you're passionate about, that makes sense, not something, again, that fits the mold. So storytelling is here to stay. Unfortunately, we've overused the term to death, but I think the underlying concept is here to stay. And again, have an unapologetic point of view. I cannot say this enough. Be authentic.
All right. So now that you've done all of this proving how awesome you are, you've got these 8 hotels. What is something that you're doing that you feel is wholly authentic or different than what everybody else
putting heads in beds in business.
Right.
The question is, are the hotels that I'm working on memorable? And I think time will tell. I'm the worst judge of that because I drink my own Kool-Aid. I want people to tell me these are memorable hotels. And honestly, what we're being is, and again, you've known me for a while, I have an unapologetic point of view. I speak my mind, and I think it translates into the work that I do. And I think ultimately, challenging designers and the teams that you work with to create an authentic experience is my job. But at the end of the day, the consumer will decide whether it's authentic or not me.
Yeah, right. So, so how do you then take all these great designs and then make sure you have the right people to actually create those memories set against that beautiful backdrop that you've created?
And there you have it. And there lies the crux of this entire thing is it all starts with hiring the right people, training the right people, and giving them the ability
but Bashar,
to be
nobody
humans.
wants to work anymore.
Well, true. Nobody wants to work. It's funny you say that. I'm actually working on this concept called give a shit ability. We're actually literally trademarking this word. And give a shit ability to me means, Glenn, you have the choice to work at hotel A, B, or C. They're all the same. They all pay the same. They all have the same benefits.
Right.
How can I create an environment that aligns with your values?
Right.
How can I practice what I preach to make you choose me to be your choice of employer? You know, people want to be proud of the place they work at. They want to brag to their family about it. They don't want just a paycheck anymore.
Yeah.
So I think so long as we create a reason for people to care, whether they're guests or employees, I think they'll come. Listen, not underestimating the labor shortage problem, but ultimately our industry is sexy and we just need to show people that there's a lot of opportunities in our industry.
Right. I think a lot of the labor shortage problem is self-induced. There's a lot of excuses still out there and blame, but nobody's really. There are some, I shouldn't say nobody. That's a real vast generalization. There's a lot of people out there that are still doing the same things that they've always done and expecting a different result. Now, I go on these Facebook groups, and a lot of these people have left the business because they can't stand how they're being treated, and has nothing to do with the money that they're being offered.
I absolutely agree. And we are so old-fashioned. You think about our business, it really hasn't changed much in the last 100 years. Like, for example, who decided the shifts are 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7? When my kid in high school works at Amazon, whips out his phone and picks the shift he wants to work at.
Right.
So I think we need a seismic shift in how we think about the rigidity of our business, because the world has moved so fast around us, yet we're still stuck in these old systems.
Right.
So I think we as an industry, we need to think differently about it. And why are people, like one of the things we're talking about a lot is there are 3 different kinds of people that work in a hotel. Not everyone needs to be career oriented because we're disappointed if they're not career oriented. Well, somebody is just there for a paycheck, so let's give them what's important to them and not force a career down their throat. And vice versa, someone who wants a career, let's give them what's important. So the idea of individuality and giving people the right things to make the job work for them is really important.
All right, so here's my next wine. But Bashar, that's a lot of work.
Well, listen, if you don't adapt, you're dead. And if you want to be out of business, keep doing the same thing. And you just said it. You're expecting different results. It's not going to happen.
No, you're not. And I like the idea of treating each individual as a person. As a matter of fact, in our book, The Adapters, which I co-wrote with Sean Worker, available now at Amazon.com, we talk about those kinds of issues in there and how to really focus on giving people control over their careers and their lives in a more meaningful way. Right?
Totally agree. And I think, again, respecting individuality, we kind of paint everybody with a broad paintbrush. And again, we end up getting disappointed. And I think if you start really thinking about individuals and their needs and desires, sure, it's more hard work up front, but you'll end up with a lot more loyal employees. All you'll understand what's going to happen. Like you will know what's happening before it happens because you understand that this individual is only here for the summer and it's leaving. They're not going to lie to you. And if you start up front with that, you'll know what's happened and control your future, essentially.
Right. That's beautiful. So, tell us a little bit about we're almost out of time. So tell us a little bit about one of the hotels that you're operating right now and why it's a great experience for people.
So we have a hotel in Buckhead, Atlanta called Hotel Coley. It's part of the Autograph Collection. Buckhead is a great sort of shopping center for Atlanta. We've done a lot of partnerships and a lot of activations with amazing vendors in the areas and retailers. Andrew Alfred, great designer, did the lobby for us. It's really fun and sort of engaging and irreverent kind of experience. And I think people look at these old business hotels and they say, well, it can't be that colorful and it can't be this because business travelers won't resonate. Business travelers don't leave in the morning and say, I want a really boring beige hotel.
Right.
It doesn't happen anymore.
No.
So the idea is of flipping this business hotel and making it be more friendly and more irreverent to make it attractive to leisure travelers, but also make the business traveler feel. We talked this morning about this bleisure business or bleisure business. Like creating, really blurring the lines, I think is really, really important.
By the way, we hate that word.
I know. I told Chip this morning, by the way, it's pleasure. Let's use the British version rather than bleisure.
I like that. Sounds a little bit classier.
Which sounds like a
That's
little
true.
disease you have that you put some ointment on.
He's, of course, referring to a panel he did with Chip Rogers, the president and CEO of AHLA, over here at the NEWH Leadership Conference. But yeah, that's a really, again, a fascinating way of looking at things. So why do you think so many hoteliers are embracing the past and not really looking forward?
Great question, Glenn. Our industry historically has been very late adopters. You think about technology, you think about all the things that have happened. I honestly think it's somewhat generational.
Right.
And I hate to equate us to the people that said, oh yeah, the internet, that thing is a fad, it'll go away.
Right.
I think very few people in our industry, and again, not to generalize, have really adopted this idea of we've got to innovate or we will die. But I think there's a lot of old school, and it's expensive, like technology is expensive, hotels are expensive to change and renovate. But I think if we do not continue to innovate, we will definitely die. And I think a lot of it's sort of the old guard. And I think the next generation is going to change the game for us meaningfully.
Yeah, it's funny how older people immediately, in a lot of instances, discount what younger people are thinking and saying because they don't have that same experience. So therefore, it's not valid.
Look, the metaverse. I am working hard, not thinking about what working hard on, saying, I want to open a hotel in the metaverse.
Right.
I'm in my 50s. People should be laughing at me for saying that are my age.
Right.
But I'm telling you, that is where the world is going. And if you're not paying attention, you will be left behind.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm participating in the Hotels of Tomorrow project, and we're doing part of it in the metaverse, which is cool. So I got my Oculus glasses, and I went to a cocktail party and a couple of presentations in that metaverse, and it was a pretty cool experience. I get a little nauseous moving around in there. So
I mean, look, again, that's gamifying everything in life is the future. And if you don't like it, learn about it. And if you still don't like it, hire someone who knows about it.
Right.
Because you will be left behind. Again, it'll be like the internet. Again, that internet thing is a fad.
So before we wrap up, Bashar, we're talking about blending work and vacation time, taking care of yourself. How does that really play itself out, in your opinion, in the perfect hotel experience?
I mean, the perfect hotel experience clearly is a place that feels like home.
Right.
Meaning you don't have to pretend to be someone else. You can be yourself. You can show up in a pair of shorts and flip-flop or show up in a three-piece suit. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I think striking that balance that makes it feel aspirational as an experience, that it doesn't feel like your home where it's sort of, you could be anything you want to be. But the idea is being comfortable in who you are and what you do, walking into a building that still feels aspirational and not intimidating in a way is ultimately in my opinion, the path to success. The minute I feel at home,
I don't want to feel too at home. Then people make fun of me for wearing a business shirt and sweatpants and Crocs, because that's been pretty much what I do on air every single day.
By the way, that's what billionaires wear these days, so it doesn't matter anymore, right?
So funny, man.
Right?
One time I was at the Beverly Hilton, and I just got into town. I was in like a sweat outfit, and everybody's coming over from an Alice conference that particular year. This is years ago. So everybody thought I was famous or something like that because I was dressed like shit and everyone else was in suits.
Exactly. It's the paradigm has shifted for sure.
Who is that?
Yeah,
who is that?
Like paparazzi all around.
Yeah, it was really too funny. So Bashar, how can we learn more about what you're up to if the folks are not here and get to speak and won't get to see you speak on stage tomorrow?
To live the true term, I have the domain hotelier.life. So everything I do is on there. And if you follow me on social media, you know my shenanigans. I travel like a maniac and I sort of share the world with you through my lens. So hotelier.life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being
here.
Thank you
for having me.
I appreciate it. I'll just end it right here. So thank you all for being here today. Another episode of No Vacancy Live. Sorry, Anthony wasn't here. He didn't even know about this. It's just my type of deal. What are you going to do? All right, everybody. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on. And I'll see you tonight at 5 p.m. West Coast time, 8 p.m. Pacific time for Friday Night Audit. It's going to be a dance-off. You'll see what happens. See you then.